Hi, I'm Lucy, and a few years ago, had a panic attack that led to agoraphobia and changed my life for the worse and also for the better. Agoraphobia is completely misunderstood. It is not just the fear of leaving the house, it is actually the fear of having a panic attack or feeling unsafe, and that can be in your own bedroom, that can be in your kitchen, in your bathroom, that can be outside. It's just that most of the time, media has shown agoraphobia as you have to stay in. And whilst that is sometimes true, there's also something called high function agoraphobia. Every disorder has low function and high function, and for me, without realizing for years, I was high functioning. So, what did that look like? For me, I had a full time job. I was working from home, but I was still going to the gym. I had friends, I had goals, I was doing a lot, I was fully functioning. But every day I was having up to like 5 panic attacks a day. It got to the point where I couldn't leave my bed. I thought that the floor was like lava and that if I got out, I would basically not be here anymore. I completely convinced myself within a matter of months that things weren't safe, that I wasn't safe. And this was after COVID. So it was really interesting that even though COVID meant I had to stay inside and I eventually came back out, there was something so different when you actually have something to be afraid of, right? Like we were afraid of catching COVID, you were afraid of being unwell. Whereas this time around, I was afraid of nothing. There was nothing out there. There was nothing spreading. The thing that I was most afraid of was my own body, my own brain. I thought that if I had a panic attack in public, I would be sent to a psychiatric ward. I thought that if something was terribly wrong, I wouldn't be able to get a hospital in time. So overall, eventually, my world just shrank. I wasn't going to the gym anymore, or I was only going if I was with someone. I stopped going into the office days at work. When I was working, I was, even from home, I was just constantly in a state of panic. I never really had a chance for my nervous system to like calm down. So what I mean by that is I was reacting to everything when I didn't need to. So if I woke up in the morning, my cortisol was naturally going to spike. But when it spiked, it didn't feel natural. It felt like I was having a heart attack. Adrenaline would start pumping, and then yeah, I would be completely uncomfortable for the rest of the day. Worst part is I was scared when I woke up and I was scared to fall asleep. I was scared that if I fell asleep I would never wake back up again, and then I was scared when I woke up that it would be my last day living. So it really was a bundle of agoraphobia, panic disorder, health anxiety, and I guess, fear of death as well, all rolled into one. Um, and I wasn't in the most supportive relationship at the time either. I was in a relationship where I was really giving, giving, giving. And to be honest, I was masking a lot as well. I'm very much like a type B person. Like I am chaos all the time. I don't really plan things. I don't really commit to things. I really struggle with sort of structure. Like my room's always a mess, and I have like object blindness, like very much like ADHD traits, to be honest. Whereas the person that I was with at the time was very type A, was very like gym at this time, up at this time, bed by 9, completely different to who I am. So when I look back at that time of having panic disorder and feeling constantly heightened, something that definitely fed into it was the relationship that I was in, the environment that I was in. It did not fit me, it did not suit me. So because I was constantly masking all of the time, it meant that I had no energy for myself. I had no energy for my own anxiety. Every day I was waking up and doing things for other people and never myself. So overall, I was just, it's fair to say, knackered. I was absolutely knackered. So when that anxiety did spike, instead of reacting to it with, kind of calmness and nothing, I would immediately go, oh, okay, this is it. Like, we're going now, we're doing it. It may be that when you look back at why do I have panic disorder, what causes my panic attacks, something to remember is you are the product of the environment that you are in. Maybe without even realizing the environment that you're in doesn't suit your emotional needs. And therefore you're constantly on guard. And if you're constantly on guard, you're going to react more heightened to things. And that's exactly what happened to me. So when it came to the first panic attack that led to agoraphobia, I was in this relationship, I was in a lot of debt, I was working two jobs. I was working at Sainsbury's in the mornings as an online shopper. I would be up at 3 in the morning. I would start at 4. I would walk to the building. I would do 4 hours, and then my second job, which was at home, started at 8:30 in the morning. So I was up at 3, working from 4 until basically 5:30 at night. Um, and the second job was very stressful because it was in education and it was like managing cases of young people. So from the start of the day, I was heightened. And then at the end of the day, I had no chance to relax because by the time I finished work, then I had to cook tea and then I had to clean and then I had to go to bed early because I had to go to the gym in the morning. Like it was too much for anyone. That's too much, never mind someone who is naturally very kind of anxious, and I'm also very sensitive. So basically what ended up happening was I burnt out completely. I completely burnt out. I ended up having a huge panic attack, a panic attack that essentially pushed me into probably the worst my mental health has been. If hearing about panic attacks triggers you in any way, you might want to skip ahead for this bit, but because I am going to talk about what happened kind of in detail. Mainly because some people experience the same thing and don't realize that it is a panic attack. They actually think that it was, a really bad health issue, like a heart attack, or maybe they fainted or passed out, but they actually didn't. It was something else. So yes, if you have health anxiety and talking about these things is going to trigger you, skip ahead into the next bit. Okay, so before I had the panic attack, I was absolutely knackered and I was sleeping on the sofa. And I was actually meant to be working, so I was meant to be working my second job, but I was having a nap. I was so tired. I was using my break as a nap. And it was really, really warm. It was like the temperature was really high. I remember that. And I fell asleep on the sofa. I was really dazed and groggy and just like limp. And then my work phone started ringing because obviously I had it on loud. So it started ringing. And I was like, if the phone rings in my old job, it was always an emergency. It was always something that needed doing now. So I had this complete moment of like panic, adrenaline, but I was also still very, very tired, very, very sleepy. I was coming out of sleep essentially. So I was coming out of sleep whilst having to deal with basically an emergency at work, and my brain couldn't cope with those two things. Half of me felt asleep and half of me felt very alert. So from the moment I sat up, from the moment I started walking, everything felt dizzy, everything felt strange. I felt like I was walking in slow motion. I was having to hold onto the wall. It was just really distorting. I didn't feel normal. So my instinct for some reason was to ignore the work phone and go to the toilet because I thought, okay, maybe like I'm gonna be sick, like maybe I'm not okay. So I went to the toilet, and as I like pulled down, I hate this bit because it's so dumb. As I pulled down my trousers to go to the toilet, it felt like, so my thumb, which I hooked to pull down my trousers, it felt like my thumb went through the joggers. Like it felt like, I don't know how to describe it, but it just didn't feel like I was like complete. It felt like the bones were missing from my body. And I remember touching that fabric, my thumb went numb, and it felt like I'd gone through the joggers. And that feeling really triggered something, like for that feeling of the thumb and the numbness. And I remember shouting for my ex-partner that I was living with and going, I'm going to pass out, something's not right. So then he comes in. And I don't really remember much, but I can remember the sensations. So I was hot and cold at the same time. And after the feeling of the thumb, I ended up falling to the floor. And it felt like I was constantly falling through the floor. It felt like once I made contact, I was still going and going and going and going. Um, and again, it was that feeling of like I am not complete, like I am like falling through something. So I was trying my absolute hardest, and it's so sad, and it breaks my heart every time I think about it. Um, I was clinging onto the bath. I was holding onto the edge of the bath, and I was trying to stop myself from falling over and over again into the ground. But it also felt like my hand was falling through as well. So my ex partner said that I was just clawing at the bathtub for like 10, 15 minutes, and I was crying and I was screaming and I was saying that I don't want to, I don't want to, uh, I've got so much to live for, I've got so much to do. Um, I was saying like, if I do, then these are like my last words. Like, this is what to say to people that I love, because I'd never experienced this before. It was completely new. Um, so yes, I was holding on, but I was falling and falling and falling, and my head felt so heavy. I felt so hot, so cold, just so many sensations at once, and I was absolutely terrified. And I was just howling and screaming because I'd never felt this before. And I thought that it would only end when it was like the end of my life. I thought maybe my heart will give in. Maybe I've just like had a stroke. I was absolutely terrified. So I ended up getting, I clawed off the bathtub and I just let myself slump down. Like I just had no energy left. I think the adrenaline had gone. I had nothing left. So I ended up just slumped on the floor, and I was really scared and I was shaking, crying, howling, like I had no idea what was going on. And eventually I started to be able to feel my breath again. So I was really heavy breathing in through the mouth, out through the mouth as well. And I was like tapping myself because I wasn't sure if I was real anymore. I was tapping myself and making sure that I was like still real, and heavy breathing and heavy breathing. And the ex partner at the time, to be honest, was not helpful at all, which was a common theme with him. But also, like, I'd never had a panic attack before, so I didn't even know what I needed. Um, so the heavy breathing and the tapping, um, and I started to feel, when you have like a head rush, I started to like feel the blood pumping around my body again. And this was maybe like 10 or 15 minutes, like after the initial feeling. And it was just like my blood was pumping again. I was like, okay, this is good. This is what I want. Um, and I was in complete shock. Like, once that feeling of I've came back into my body happened, I didn't feel like I came back into my own body. I felt like I came into a very unstable structure that I could not trust anymore, that was not mine anymore. I feel like it had been hijacked by whatever happened in my brain. And this was the start of agoraphobia for me. I literally, once I came back into myself, I was so scared to walk. Like, I was so scared that if I walked, I would pass out again. Um, so I literally crawled on my hands and knees into my bed. And from that moment on, my bed became my only safe space. It became the place where I would stay for weeks, months. Um, and I had no idea. It just, the feeling of the duvet coming over and being secure, um, and also that feeling of, at least if I pass out, I'm somewhere safe, was going through my head. Now, I have no recollection over what happened after all of that. I think that I was in a complete state of shock. I think I was just merely trying to survive. Um, so from basically then on, I stayed in bed. I worked from bed. I wouldn't leave bed. The only time I would leave bed would be to go to the bathroom, but I would only go to the bathroom if someone else was in the house. I would never go to the bathroom on my own, because the bathroom became my trigger point. Um, I had to wear gloves to take my trousers down because the sensation of material on my thumb was a trigger. that sensation now to me meant I'm gonna have, a panic attack. I'm not gonna be okay. So I had to wear a glove on my hands to go to the toilet, or when I was getting changed, or if I was doing like anything with like material, like if I was folding up clothes eventually, um, just to take away that sensation, because if I felt that sensation, that was it. I was gonna react badly. Um, so yeah, I'd only use the bathroom if someone was in the house. I was terrified to shower. God knows how long I went without showering. I wasn't looking after myself. I just wasn't okay. Like, I was in the absolute trenches of agoraphobia. Um, Not even realizing that it was agoraphobia at the time. So crazy. Um, but yeah, that's what life looks like for a while. Life looks like only being in bed, only doing something if I was with someone. Um, it was awful. And a lot more happened since then. Like the whole recovery things afterwards. That's some other videos that I'll make after this. But for this video, I just wanted to share my experience of a panic attack that changed my life completely, that brought on panic disorder, that brought on health anxiety, that brought on a fear of death, and made me housebound and then high function agoraphobia for 2 years after. So, if you've been affected by a panic attack, panic disorder, you are absolutely not alone in that. I really, really wish that I had someone or something to watch, listen to, be a part of when I was going through that, because your world shrinks so much and you think, I'm the only one, I'm such an idiot, like, I'm weird, what am I doing? But the reality is, there's hundreds, thousands of people doing the exact same thing right now. I just hope that by sharing this, and if you want to follow me along for another video, if you want to watch my TikToks where I give like advice about how I get through it, please do. But my advice to you is to stay with yourself. Remember that your body is the safe space, and even if it doesn't feel like it right now, it will be one day. I never, ever honestly thought that I would have my life back. I had the darkest thoughts, I had the darkest times, because I thought, okay, this is it, like my life has expired. It had not. It's only got better. Like, it's wild how much better things have got, which I'll share in another video. But do not let this define your life. It's a very temporary, short thing that happens, and it's not comfortable and it's not nice, but it doesn't have to alter the course of your life. You will also become one of the most emotionally resilient people that you know, because not a lot of people experience the agoraphobia, panic disorder, especially if you're having regular panic attacks. You out of this will become so emotionally resilient, so emotionally intelligent, and you will have a lot more love and care for yourself. So keep going, keep at it. Whether you are stuck in bed right now, whether you are scared to shower right now, whether you can only walk down the street, all of those things, it's not forever. It just depends how you treat yourself now. So treat yourself kindly and gently, and do not push yourself too far, because there is so much time to recover from this. You do not need to rush the process.